Hello, I'm Randy Seaver. I want to introduce you to a series I'm going to call Discussions with Dr. Fatbottom. Now I want to play a clip, a very brief clip, show you where I got this name and declare to you that Dr. Fatbottom indeed does live, though he is a mythical and metaphorical creature, and I'll tell you why that must be when we get back. But for now, I want you to see this short clip by Pastor Steven L. Anderson. Hope you enjoy it. I'll be right back.
To you why two people could not be punished for the same sin.
Shut up, you intellectual fool. You uber intellectual. You Dr. Fatbottom from so-and-so, the seminary, with all your degrees and all your accolades of man. You are a fool. And you know what? If any man think himself to be wise, let him become a fool. Because you know what? The wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. And all these man-made, logical, rational arguments against Jesus dying for everybody are the foolishness of the world. It's nonsense.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that clip. I found it to be entertaining. This young man seems to be quite convinced of his material and is willing to call anybody who doesn't agree with him a fool. And I'm sure you noted the phrase Dr. Fatbottom. Now, as I mentioned before, this person called Dr. Fatbottom must be a mythical and metaphorical creature, and I think that I probably would fit the bill to play the part of Dr. Fatbottom until someone else shows up to take my place. I'm sure there are those that would do a better job than I, but I'll be the fill-in until they arrive. Dr. Fatbottom is, number one, a doctor, and so I don't fit that bill. I'm not a doctor, not even a nurse, and I'm not altogether fat, and certainly my bottom isn't. So there are some ways in which I don't fit the bill. The one way in which I do, however, is that I really believe that if we're going to understand the Scriptures, we need to apply logical reason to the Scriptures. I'm not among those who believe that logic is a tool of the devil and came from the pit of hell, and that we're going to be lost if we ever try to reason logically concerning how to interpret the Scriptures. You may have noticed, if you've read the Scriptures at all, that the Apostle Paul in particular often uses the word therefore. Now, the word therefore is intended to cause us to draw a logical conclusion, and so it would only make sense, would it not, that we would reason logically to come to the conclusion that the apostle wants us to come to. And so I'm going to be talking to you about various doctrines. I'm going to be playing clips from other pastors who obviously have not used any logic. They string out a list of proof text and think they've won the argument, when in reality they don't even have a clue what the text of the Scripture they're talking about is about. So we want to talk about that just a little bit. You may have noticed toward the end of that clip that Pastor Anderson said that if anyone reasons logically and tries to apply logical arguments to a text, then he's a fool, and he needs to. And he quoted, or I might say misquoted, which is kind of tough for a guy who believes the King James Version is the only version of the Bible that is inspired of God, and that we have to quote it correctly if it's going to be effective. I noticed he misquoted the verse. The verse is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 18. Here's what it says in the King James Version. I had to hunt to find the King James Version, but I finally found one. The text says, "Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth," you got to get that "eth" in there because that's important, "seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise." Now, you may have noticed that in that clip, Pastor Anderson did not include the phrase "in this age" or "in this world." In the Greek, of course, it is "in this age." Here in the King James Version, it is "in this world." But it seems to me that that passage, that phrase in the passage is very, very important. The Apostle Paul has in this very context talked about wisdom that is acceptable. He says we don't reason according to the wisdom of the world. We reason according to the wisdom that God gives. And so wisdom itself and logic itself and so forth are not bad things. If we assume that logic is of the devil, then we're going to miss the meaning of most of the scriptures. Most of what the Apostle Paul has to say is based on logical reasoning. And we're going to try to apply that to various texts of the New Testament scriptures and see why these logical conclusions are extremely important to us as Christian believers. Hope you'll tune in next time for discussions with Dr. Fatbottom, and until then, may God richly bless you.